flow.
Welcome to episode 67 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. If you're a new listener and you really enjoy the show, please give us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. We would love you for that. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you enjoy the content, it would be a big time help if you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right, everybody. As of Monday, July 11th, 2022, we are a few days removed from the NHL Draft. Free agency is coming up in a couple of days.
Ooh.
Lots of rumors swirling around right now. We have a lot to get into in this podcast. The Leafs goaltending situation is front and center. What the hell is going on? Who is going to be the number one goalie for the Leafs? We're going to get into that and some other news across the NHL. We're going to talk about the Senators, the Blackhawks. It's going to be great. But before we get into all that, it is time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno with the excited introduction. He's pumped up for this one.
I am.
And why wouldn't he be pumped up? Gluttons for Punishment Podcast, episode number, say it with me, Bruno, 67. Cue the jokes in the comments in 3, 2, 1, go. But we did it. But to be fair, there was a very good player who donned the number 67 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, right-handed defenseman Robert Zvela, who it was actually his the last season of his NHL career, played all 82 games, and had a nice, I think it was around 45 points. So Robert Zvela, shout out to you wherever you are.
Not bad. Robert Zvela. Okay.
Nice,
I can get on board with that. But like you said, man, the jokes are already probably flooding into the comments section.
Yeah, they're just blowing up right now.
Episode 67. We all know what happened back in 1967. The last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. And who knows when they'll ever win it again. We could be doing this podcast for another 55 years, and they probably won't win. But
around or the cup?
Oh my God. Don't even, Lepore.
Yeah. Baby steps, eh, Bruno?
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get right into this thing. So we got to start off with Matt Murray.
We do.
Okay, because yesterday, Elliot Friedman came on Twitter and he said, Ottawa and Toronto have intensified discussions around Matt Murray. And this is huge news because there's a lot of free agent goalies out there. I shouldn't say a lot because some of them have come off the board. Some have signed contracts already. And the Leafs clearly need one of these guys. So, first everyone thought Jack Campbell's coming back. Like now that they moved Petr Mrazek, which we will get into later in the podcast, they moved Petr Mrazek, right? They have the cap space. Campbell's coming back, or maybe they're going to make a move and try to sign Kemper, who's the other, I don't want to call him a star goalie, but he's like the other like top tier goalie available in the UFA class. But now out of nowhere, it looks like Matt Murray could be dealt to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Lepore. And just to go over a couple of things here. So there's the connection to the Sioux Greyhounds.
Of course there is.
He played for the Sioux Greyhounds in the OHL. We all know the Sioux Greyhound connection with the Leafs. That's where Kyle Dubas was the GM. Sheldon Keefe coached. I mean, it's hilarious. It's like anyone who played for the Sioux Greyhounds, it seems like Kyle Dubas is in on.
Yeah, go get Gretzky for crying out loud. Jeez.
Unbelievable. So there's that connection. And I don't know, Leaf fans seem kind of torn on this because Matt Murray's been bad the last 3 seasons. Yeah. Over the last 3 years, Lepore, he has an .899 save percentage and a 3.06 goals against average. He's been injured, unreliable, comes at a 6.25 cap hit over the next 2 years. So what are your thoughts on these reports, man?
It's a lot. It's a lot of grasping for straws, as they say, trying to make it a positive thing. But when you try to stay as objective as possible, it all depends what the deal is. And it's easy to say that, but it really and truly does. Like I've heard a bunch of rumors, as I'm sure you have, Bruno, as to what the package is. I've heard there may be a third team involved, but at the end of the day, at $6.25 million, if Ottawa retains half, or someone even mentioned the Sens retaining half, another team retaining a portion. If there's a third team, if they can get him for like between 2 and 3 million, it's worth a shot. And there was a lot of stuff going on with this guy over the last couple of years. There was a big story in The Athletic about how his father passed away and he took it really hard. Like, I don't know if you want to use the word depression, but he wasn't doing well. And there's a lot of weirdness around his season last year with the Sens where he'd be slated to start and then the Sens would release day of the game that he's not playing, he's injured. So you kind of wonder exactly what that was, and who knows, and we probably never will know. But will salary be retained? I think certainly. Like, I don't think Kyle Dubas is going to be all gung-ho about bringing in a $6 million goalie who hasn't performed over the last few seasons. No chance. And also with what's going the other way, I've heard Justin Hall could be going the other way. I've even heard deals that include the Sens retaining and throwing in like Shane Pinto or Formanton. Who knows? Because at the end of the day, this would be a huge deal for the Ottawa Senators. If they can clear all $6 million off the books, or if they can clear even half of it off the books, that's huge for them. They have guys to sign. They want to move up the standings. So if they can add another piece, they think they have their goaltending solidified in the short term anyway with Anton Forsberg. So I'm not going to say Ottawa is desperate to make this move, but it'd be a slam dunk for them to be able to unload some of that. And as far as the Leafs go, if they can get a cheap goalie, maybe even get a body out of it. You know what rumor I actually heard, Bruno? And I don't know if this was just to give Leafs fans hard-ons all around. I heard Connor Brown.
Wow.
Someone mentioned Connor Brown. Someone mentioned Connor Brown in on the deal. So, and that'd be a great PR move to deal with all the Leafs fans freaking out about taking a goalie who hasn't played well for 3 years. But if it does happen, we'll find out what it is. And who knows? And I hate to sound like I'm copping out saying I'm kind of on the fence, but I am on the fence because I don't really know what the deal is. Well, I'll say it. If they end up paying $3 million for Murray and Hall is in on the deal, like's been rumored, and then they also throw in like a depth forward, a nice young piece, I think I'd be okay with it. I mean, really. And someone pointed out, I'll bring up the stat. You can make of this of what you want. So Murray played 20 games last year. Through his first 18, his save percentage was .920, and his goal saved above expected was .929. If his season ended there, he would have been fourth, only behind Shesterkin, Anderson, and Comrie. Okay. But then what happened was those last two games, that was his first 18. The last two games, he gave up 5 to Tampa Bay. And then remember there was a shit show game against Arizona where the Sens lost like 8-6. And I don't know what was going on, but they left him in for all 8. And I can already hear people now saying, well, if you take away every goalie's worst 2 games, but I mean, through 18 straight games, those were his numbers. And then those 2 games against Tampa, the best team in the league, and just a shit show of a game against Arizona. So I don't think it's that far-fetched to be like, it's fair to remove those. But who knows? The other thing is too, and I'm rambling now, the Leafs have their new goaltending coach. So he's in on this deal. His opinion's being heard about this deal and the goalie that comes in and the guy he's going to work with and his opinion. So he must have positive things to say about Murray and what he sees. But I'll let you go, Bruno. How do you feel about this one?
No, I like the way you laid it out. If he's going to come over to the Leafs in a trade, Ottawa has to retain salary. There's no way in hell Kyle Dubas is taking on the entire $6.25 million.
Yeah. He's like the next highest paid years. He's like the 8th highest paid goalie in the league or something, or 6th highest paid or something.
It's crazy. We all knew at the time when Ottawa signed that deal that it was a little sketchy. Even though Murray had won 2 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins and put up good numbers with Pittsburgh, you know, he was starting to sort of, I don't want to say decline because he's only 28 years old, but he had a rough season, and then they just said, screw it, we're going to give him this big contract. And now clearly it's come back to bite them in the ass. But I can get on board with the trade, Lepore. If Ottawa's going to retain half the salary, if there's another team involved, if there's any salary retention whatsoever, I can get on board, especially if the Leafs are able to get another asset along with him in the deal. That would be fantastic. But here's where my concern lies, Lepore. I'm looking at this goalie market right now, and when you look across the league, there really is no intriguing option.
Yeah,
at all.
I know. People are throwing out these names. I'm like, you're throwing darts with whoever you go with. And that's kind of goaltending, to be fair, around the league right now. But yeah, people are like, oh, this guy. I'm like, man, he's not that good. It's not like, oh my God, we're set now.
Yeah, no matter who you're looking at, Jack Campbell, right? He's no sure thing. We just went through it last season. It's a complete roller coaster ride. The first half of the season, he was an all-star. The second half of the season, he completely fell off a cliff. Look at Darcy Kemper. Okay. And I know he's had a solid career, but he's another guy, right? Where he's not a top tier goalie. He's not a bad goalie. He's just a solid goalie. He's kind of like Jack Campbell, right? And I know he dealt with an injury in the playoffs. He got poked in the eye, and that caused his numbers to not look as great. But at the end of the day, the guy put up a 900 save percentage in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah. And lucky for him, his team was an absolute juggernaut, went 16-4 in the playoffs, and it didn't really matter how poorly Darcy Kemper played because that Avalanche team was going to win the cup regardless. So you look at Darcy Kemper, right? And I know he hasn't been linked to Toronto, but then you go down the list, right? Who are the other UFA goalies right now? Martin Jones, 32 years old. That's not intriguing at all. He's been bad the last, 3-4 years. Braden Holtby, who Frank Saravalli came out and said that he's unlikely to play next season and his career might be over
based on
injury.
Oh, because I was going to say personal choice or injury. Okay.
Yeah. So he's probably not going to play next season. And he was actually solid last year for the Dallas Stars. Yeah. Then another guy that was linked to the Leafs was Ville Husso.
Yep, that's the one.
Who played on the Blues last season, but then he got traded to the Red Wings and signed a 3-year deal for just under $5 million per at 4.75 AAV. So he's off the market right now. Marc-Andre Fleury at one point was linked to the Leafs. He re-signed with the Minnesota Wild, 2 years, $7 million. So you're going down this list, and it's either going to be Jack Campbell, Matt Murray, outside chance of Darcy Kemper, but I doubt it.
Yeah,
and
the Gibson thing's done.
The Gibson thing, that ship seems to have sailed at this point. So that's where my concern is, Lepore, is that I'm looking at this goalie market right now, and no matter who the Leafs bring in, it's not going to be a great option. And essentially what you're hoping for is what happened to the Colorado Avalanche last season, or this past season, I should say, where you're getting average to slightly above average goaltending, and you hope that the team around the goaltender is good enough to overcome that. And you obviously can't afford poor goaltending, because there were stretches last season where the Leafs goaltending was abysmal and arguably the worst in the NHL. You can't have that. You need that middle of the road goaltending. And it seems like that's what the Leafs are after right now. And it's almost like really they have no choice at this point.
Yeah. But those goalies you listed who are now gone, I don't think there's anyone on that list who I would have given a full fist pump if the Leafs acquired. Actually, you know what? To be fair, after the Mrazek deal, and people know I'm a hater for this guy, had the Leafs got Fleury for the deal Minnesota got, a 2-year deal, was at 3.5 or 3.25?
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that. Like, just to you at least you have a starting goalie who's got a high ceiling, and you're only paying him $3.5 million. Another name that's come up, because I've heard even with the Murray thing, regardless of what they get him for and what they give up to get him, he's not going to be like, at least start the season as like the 1A. So a name I've heard bounce around is Cam Talbot, because apparently he's rattled as fuck.
I heard that as well.
Yeah.
You know who I heard bring that up? I was thinking about this because even today, I'm like, I heard someone bring up Cam Talbot. I was trying to remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was Mike Johnston.
Okay.
Or Mike Johnson, I should say.
I do that all the time too.
Yeah. From TSN. I heard him bring up Cam Talbot as a possibility when he was speaking on Overdrive last week. That's not a bad option either.
Yeah. They've had like a 1A, 1B thing. You know whose name and this one can go either way with regard to opinion and Leafs fans. The one I was kind of thinking subtly, because I remember he played an amazing game against the Leafs. I forget it was this past year or the year before, was Georgiev. I thought maybe he could be something. Like, he's still a young Russian goalie with a high ceiling, and he hasn't been the greatest over the last little while. But again, high ceiling.
Before he just got dealt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
Like, but
so you're saying that he would have been a solid option.
I think that was one like I kind of looked at like, that could be something. Yeah. But yeah. Now he's gone. So that's a wrap on that.
And of course, look at the team that acquires him, the
I
Colorado
know.
Avalanche.
I know. I was telling my buddy, he's going to be perfect there. Not a lot of attention. He's not going to have to be amazing. He is talented. Watch. And I think Sakic's already said he's going to be the starting goalie. Like people thought he was going to.
That's a really nice fit, man. And
I think it's a great fit. Colorado's going to Stanley Cup again. Lay the bet now.
Oh God. And you look at Colorado's, like, just what they're paying their goaltenders. I'm going to go check their cap sheet real quick. So you have Georgiev under contract for 3 years at $3.4 million, and Pavel Francouz under contract for 2 more seasons at $2 million. So they are paying their goaltenders a combined $5.4 million.
Sure.
That's a smart team right there.
Recipe for success, man.
They're getting, average to slightly above average goaltending for $5.4 million. The team around them is an absolute juggernaut. Giddy up. They're going to go for back-to-back Stanley Cups. And again,
average
not everyone,
goaltending. Get average goaltending.
But you know what, Lepore? Like, not everyone can replicate that model. Like, we're making it sound maybe easier than it is. Like, oh, just acquire average goaltending and make sure, you have all these superstars around them, and you have Cale Makar on the blue line and Devon Taves. It's obviously not that easy, but we're not saying you have to be the Colorado Avalanche. You can be like a poor man's version of the Colorado Avalanche. And I feel like this strategy can work out as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like every year. I think we're kind of just conditioned to believe that you need these elite goalies because we saw Vasilevsky win back-to-back cups.
Right.
And then we saw even the run that Shesterkin just went on with the Rangers. And, so we think that you need a goalie like that. But then obviously Colorado wins the cup with, average to slightly below average goaltending. And I think that reinforces the point that, there's different ways that you can build a championship team, and you don't need an elite goalie who you're paying $8 to $10 million a year to. You just don't.
Yeah. And you do look back further. I mean, Chicago won their 3 cups with Niemi, and like Crawford was fine. I mean, whatever. The 3 cups Pittsburgh won, like 1 was Fleury, 2 was Murray. And like they weren't amazing. They were just good. But like as far as it goes with what the Leafs are seeking, I think the Leafs are that team, though, where they do look at it like, if we get average goaltending, we have a chance to win the whole thing. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and last season they had one of the best power plays in the history of the sport. Give us average goaltending. Someone ran the math last year on the Leafs season had they received average goaltending, and they would have won the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
Now I know that's like oversimplifying it, but I mean, more saves is better. Like they had 115 points, and they would have had more points if fewer pucks went in. But
yeah, last year, Lepore, and I brought this up on so many podcasts towards the end of last season, the Leafs finished 22nd in the league in overall save percentage and 27th in 5-on-5 save percentage.
Yeah, it's impossible. Like to finish where they finished is like impossible. But
so to say that they would have won the President's Trophy with, above average goaltending, that I 100% believe that just based on the math.
Yeah. So again, if they cut Mrazek out, if they can get goalies in for cheap, because I think too, if you look at the Leafs goaltending situation, you have Shalgren, you have Wall, you have those 2 Russian kids. One of them apparently they're really high about, because goalies always work out in Toronto, these prospect kids. So it's obviously like a stopgap, like until one of these kids comes in, and like you hope between the 4 of them that like one of them becomes a starting NHL goalie. But I don't know. People could call it a Band-Aid, but if that Band-Aid gives you a 915, fine. for cheap, fine. And it is what it is. Even too, and now I'm gonna get all raw. Murray had his 10 team list. Okay. If he goes to Toronto, he wants to be in Toronto. I think that says a lot for anyone, let alone a goalie, that he wants to wear the blue and white. Because even the biggest Leaf fan in the world sitting in this chair, if I was a goalie, I'd question it if I had that opportunity. So he'd want to go there. And would there be any situation where the guy's motivated to prove a point? Because the spotlight's going to be on. So if he plays well, there's going to be a lot of applause, and he's going to shut a lot of people up. And I'm sure he's motivated to do that. So, I mean, again, trying to put positives on it.
And this is also a guy who's not afraid of the spotlight, because we saw him as a rookie lead the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
So this is not a guy who's afraid to jump into a fresh situation and prove that he's the guy. Mm-hmm. We should also mention that I believe Edmonton is also on his wish list.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard
I
that
saw
too.
reports out there that not that he wants to definitely go to Toronto or Edmonton, but he would welcome a trade to either place.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
like they're not on his no trade list.
I've heard they say like Campbell to Edmonton's kind of like done, or it's almost there. So yeah.
Are the Oilers just stealing all of the Leafs players?
I guess.
Zach Hyman, Jack Campbell. What is like? Can Ken Holland just think for himself for once? What does he do? He just steals all the Leafs players. Everything that Kyle Dubas does, and he just says, "That's smart. I'm going to do that."
I guess it'll even out when McDavid signs in free agency. So
exactly.
For a hometown discount, take that. Oh, you took Hyman? Well, we're taking McDavid. We're even.
Yeah, McDavid is definitely coming to Toronto. And I see all the trolls in the comments saying that Matthews is leaving Toronto. I mean, you can keep saying what you want.
Why wouldn't he want to play with McDavid, though?
Matthews and McDavid, man. Down the middle on the power play. You've seen McDavid and Draisaitl. Just wait for McDavid and Austin Matthews together. Get your popcorn out, ladies and gentlemen.
Bruno. The jersey's waiting.
Yeah, so Lepore, that's pretty much what we're looking at for this goalie situation right now.
What's the over-under? What's the over-under on how long after we finish this podcast the trade's gonna go through?
Yeah, make sure you have those Twitter notifications on because you're always great for breaking news during the recording of this podcast. And I already know that within the next 10 minutes, Elliotte Friedman is going to send out a tweet. Yeah, and it's going to say that the Leafs picked up someone completely off the board, maybe that we were never thinking about, but. Yeah, that's where we're sitting at now. No matter who comes in, it's not going to be a star goalie. It's not going to be any of the top tier goaltenders from around the league who all Leaf fans would probably love to have. It's going to be Matt Murray, Jack Campbell, maybe Cam Talbot. I mean, that's what we're looking at this point. And the Leafs aren't going to spend a lot of money on the goaltending position. It's as simple as that. All right, it's time for a quick break. Hey, you. Yeah, you got Bush? You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, MANSCAPED. Taking control of your bush is very important. These products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free yard. Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using our discount code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Lepore, these products are so good.
They are the absolute best, Anthony Bruno. Men out there, it is impossible to put a positive spin on having a bush. So why not just remove it completely? Take the thinking out of it and be silky smooth. Use the Lawnmower 4.0. As Bruno said, go to manscaped.com, GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
Fellas, you can't be walking around with a nasty bush.
Ridiculous.
You got to get rid of that. You got to use the Lawnmower 4.0. You got to use all the things that come with the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped. So many great products. I promise you, you will not regret picking up all of these great products from manscaped.com. And while you're at it, use the promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That is 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the promo code GFP20. Lepore, let's move in to our next topic here. We can kind of touch on this because it's related to the goaltending situation, the Petr Mrazek trade.
Let's go.
Because that was fantastic. The Leafs moved down 13 spots in the draft from 25th overall to the 38th pick to unload that Mrazek deal. What's funny, Lepore, is that Mrazek was making, well, he still is making $3.8 million for the next 2 years. Fleury is coming in at under that number.
Wow.
Alexander Georgiev is coming in under $3.8 million. So can you imagine if he was still on the Leafs making 3.8? You look at these other goaltenders and what they're getting paid. Leaf fans would have lost their minds.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So well, it was a great move. What are your thoughts on the move?
Well, funny how you just mentioned the Twitter alerts, Friedman. So I'm watching the draft and, obviously Bettman goes up there, announces the trades, but Friedman's on it first and he sends out the tweet. And when you get that alert, sometimes you don't see the entire tweet because it's long. So you heard discussion. I think he tweeted out discussions with Chicago and Toronto over Mrazek. And then the trade came through and it said Mrazek to be dealt to Chicago for the Toronto Maple Leafs first round pick. And it was cut off there. So I just thought, okay, we traded our first round pick to get rid of 2 years of Mrazek, and then put my thumb on the tweet. It opens up, and we're picking at 38 instead. So why the hell not? Like I sometimes look at trades, and I mean, it's a negotiation. So someone starts high and then it goes back and forth. Like, I can't, what did Toronto start and finish with there? And what did Chicago start and finish with there? Like, I have no idea. I mean, did Chicago say, okay, we want your first? And Kyle says, how about we just trade picks? And they're like, okay. Like,
I think that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what Chicago was going for there, but to try to justify for Chicago, I guess they need a goalie. And they don't care if they're good over the next little while. And if he's great, he's great. And if he sucks, they don't care. So, but I mean, you can say that about a lot of goalies. They could have brought in anyone, but I'm happy they did it to have Mrazek off the books. It's nice, man. It's nice.
Yeah, it was a real nice deal by Kyle Dubas. I don't know how anyone could criticize what he did. And you could say, oh, once again, Kyle Dubas had to give up a first-round pick, just like he had to attach a first-round pick to get rid of the Marleau contract. But he moved down 13 spots in the draft from 25 to 38. And really, the player that you're picking at either 25 or 38, it's pretty much equal value.
Yeah, in any draft, let alone this. Like this draft, they were saying GMs were reporting or saying to reporters that going into even like the mid-second round, they had guys available who were like in their top 15. Like the draft was all over the map. So teams didn't care to go down a bit because like guys on their list were still available. It's a weird draft, man. Weird draft. The whole like Shane Wright thing and picks moving around. And then obviously the Sens trade and all that. It's a weak draft, but an exciting draft to watch. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, very exciting draft. I don't think anyone knows who the best player in this draft actually is. It was one of those years.
Whoever Tampa picked in the third round, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whoever Tampa picked 74th overall is going to end up being the star player in this draft.
50 goal scorer. Yeah.
It was really bizarre, not to spend too much time on the draft, but Shane Wright was the favorite to go first overall. But then a few days leading up to the draft, the betting markets changed drastically. Where Juraj Slafkovský out of nowhere went from like, I don't remember what he was like 2 weeks before the draft, but he moved up to like plus 140.
At one point, he was like
overall pick.
At one point, he was like 6-1 or 7-1. Yeah.
There you go. So he goes from like 7-1 to plus 140. Shane Wright went from like minus 500 to minus 200.
Yeah.
And the betting markets, they tend to tell the story. I know it kind of backfired in the NBA draft because the lines were moving like crazy. And Paolo Banchero, I don't think was the favorite to go first overall. I think it was still, I want to say it was Jabari Smith.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So the betting markets were kind of thrown off. We're throwing people off in that instance. But yeah, for the NHL draft, it really did play out. Slafkovský went number 1. Shane Wright drops to 4th overall. This guy was the consensus first overall pick for like 3 to 4 years.
He was what do they call it? Exceptional status.
Yeah, exceptional status.
Crazy.
Enters the OHL as a 15-year-old, just like John Tavares. I think Connor McDavid had exceptional status.
Oh yeah, McDavid did. Yeah, Tavares, Bouwmeester, I think is the other one.
Yeah. So
did Lindros? I think Lindros may have been.
Yep, Lindros as well. I'm pretty sure he's a part of that group. So it was just, it was bizarre to see that. And again, not to spend too much time, but like you said, Lepore, very exciting draft. And we don't know who the hell the best player in this draft is going to be. This draft reminded me of the 2017 draft with Nico Hischier, Nolan Patrick, Cale Makar went 4th overall in that draft. So he obviously is the best player from that draft at this point. Also in that draft, Lepore, Elias Pettersson.
Mm-hmm.
You go down the list a little bit. Martin Necas, Nick Suzuki, Robert Thomas, and Josh Norris.
Robert Thomas, great player.
Also in the first round. So a lot of similarities to that draft where you don't really know which of those players from the top is going to be the best player. But we'll see how it plays out, Lepore. I don't want to spend too much time on the draft.
Yeah.
We gotta talk
really
about
quickly
this.
though. Really quickly,
ahead.
Bruno. I got some insider information. I have a tie to someone inside the Flyers. And he told me a couple days before the draft that the Flyers had Wright ranked at number 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
7.
And at first I was like, oh, okay. But then it's how you saw how he dropped. It's like, it's not that far fetched. So yeah, a lot of people saw it coming, and you said the betting market saw it coming as well.
Wow. 7th, they had him ranked. And we talked about this, I believe, on one of the podcasts when the World Juniors was happening.
He
And we
didn't do
both
well,
said
yeah.
that Shane Wright just didn't jump off the screen.
Connor Bedard looked better than he did.
Oh,
He
Connor
not even
Bedard
close.
looked unbelievable. Connor Bedard looked like Connor McDavid,
Yeah.
the way he was flying around the ice. And Shane Wright just didn't look as good, didn't look as explosive, didn't look like he was the best player on the ice. So
Yeah.
again, maybe all these scouts and these teams that, put millions of dollars towards this stuff in terms of scouting and what they do for the draft, maybe all that money and all those resources actually led them to making the right choice and to Shane Wright falling down the draft board, because maybe these other players are just simply better prospects. Honestly, I didn't watch all these prospects throughout the season. You watch games here and there and you read reports and you watch things on YouTube, but it's funny because everyone thinks they're a scout and everyone thinks, this team is stupid, that team is stupid for passing on a player. You're not spending as much time as these teams are.
Yeah. Really quickly, and we will move on. Man, think of this whole thing from Wright's perspective. Okay. Exceptional status kid, Canadian kid. The draft is in Montreal, and Montreal has the first overall pick. Think of how huge it would have been for him to be drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, like all the hype. He's a star. Like I said, drafted first overall in Montreal, and he ends up in Seattle.
Wild.
Crazy. Hey, that's a punch in the face, man. And he said right away he's gonna have a point to prove. So we'll see. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, he could have gone to even Arizona, played in a 5,000 seat arena.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's a pretty good landing spot, all things considered, landing in Seattle. But man, he could have landed in Montreal. What a stage that would have been for that kid. But we'll see how it all plays out, Lepore. We got to talk about this Alex DeBrincat move to the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell the Chicago Blackhawks are doing. Let me just run through this real quick. So there were some people last year who thought that they were actually really good because they trade for Marc-Andre Fleury. They trade for Seth Jones and sign him to that monster contract, which looks terrible right now. And people thought they were actually good. Then they start the season. They're an absolute train wreck. And now they're blowing up the roster. And they're actually trading away quality young players like Alex DeBrincat, who is a 2-time 40-goal scorer. Also, Lepore, did you know only 7 players in the NHL have scored more goals than DeBrincat since he entered the league as a rookie in 2017, 2018. Only 7 players in the league have scored more goals during that span. And the Blackhawks figured, we don't need a 24-year-old young stud 40-goal scorer. No, not at all. We don't need that. Let's tear it down and leave Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane on the roster.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah.
It's just kind of a bizarre situation. So they trade DeBrincat to the Senators for the 7th overall pick, 39th pick, and a 3rd rounder in 2024. I think it's a great move for Ottawa because right now that Ottawa Senators team, they're looking pretty scary, especially up front in that top 6. But I just had to get that off my chest. I just think the Blackhawks are insane. Like, even just to rewind quickly to go over some of those moves. So they traded Adam Bokvist, who they selected 8th overall, and 2 first round picks and a 2nd round pick to the Blue Jackets in that Seth Jones deal. So it's like they drafted that defenseman Bokvist, 8th overall, trade him for Seth Jones, who now looks like just looks like a disaster of a contract. So now they're left with essentially Kane, Taves, and Seth Jones, and Petr Mrazek in net. It's a mess.
Yeah. It kind of like an unpopular opinion, I think, on this one, because everyone was shitting on the Blackhawks. And I'm not going to say like I think what they did was awesome, but I do look at the deal for DeBrincat, and I kind of ask myself, okay, well, what if the kid's not going to sign? And I think the issue here is that, okay, he's not going to sign. This team's going to be bad for a while. So it's almost like this guy's kind of useless on our team right now. And there's also the matter of clearly with getting rid of with getting rid of Bedard, with getting rid of DeBrincat, getting rid of Doc, acquiring Mrazek, this team is going full blown balls to the wall Connor Bedard sweepstakes. So having Doc and having DeBrincat makes you almost too good to be at the very bottom. And as stupid as that sounds, that's the league we play in right now. So to get the 7th overall pick, I mean, the 7th overall pick is a lot. But what I would love to see, absolutely love to see, is, or be on the fly on the wall, or to have been a fly on the wall for, would have been the discussions with the teams above Ottawa. Because my assumption is that Chicago went through every team. Montreal, will you trade first overall for DeBrincat? Then you go to 2, 3, 4, Seattle, and keep going. And I'd love to know the choices of those teams or how they evaluated it. Like Montreal, would you have been shocked if they traded first overall for DeBrincat?
I would have been pretty shocked, to be honest.
You're saying the pick's more powerful.
Yeah, I would have taken the first overall pick. I think that's
me
too much to give up.
Yeah, me too. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have called Montreal crazy for like
no.
Yeah, for a guy who scores 40 goals.
Yeah, you'd be able to justify it. You could figure out ways to justify that.
Yeah, and then to show your fans immediately, we have Caulfield, Suzuki, and DeBrincat. That's nice. So again, I find it interesting. I just think for them, it's a cap league. Like I don't want to say it doesn't really matter what you get in return. It's just you have to strategize based on cap availability. Are guys going to re-sign? What can you get in return? They're going to trade more bodies and get more picks. Like they're going to be bad for a while, and they know it. And they should do the best they can. Actually, a trade I thought of when it happened was the Kessel deal. Leafs to Pittsburgh. We got Kapanen, who was like a mid-first rounder, and it was the late first rounder that they flipped for Anderson. So at the end of the day, you got a mid and a late first rounder for a guy who scored 35 goals, 80 points. And he was signed. He signed.
But Phil Kessel was not a 24-year-old at
That's
the time.
Absolutely. But I'm saying in the way of like, you have a guy confirmed in his career, he will put up these numbers. And we got two first, one mid, one late. So DeBrincat's not signed. He's got 1 year to go, and his qualifying offer is $9 million. And I'm not trying to fully justify it. Like I wouldn't have made the deal if I was Chicago, but like hockey wise, I'm just saying, I think people sometimes we revert back to like pre-cap and what like certain returns were. Like no one, for example, like Ottawa, had they gone to Ottawa and been like, we want Stützle, Ottawa would have been like, no. Because then like, what's the point? If we remove Stützle and we bring in DeBrincat, what's the point? Or had they been like, we want whatever bought, no, they would have said no. Like we don't want to give something on our roster. So like, what are you going to give up? You're going to give away that pick, and that's it. So I don't know. Like I just don't think it's as bad of a deal as people are making it out to be. Because again, the 7th overall pick is a high pick, and you don't see picks that high get traded too often. But I think it's clear what Chicago is doing. So it doesn't. The things in between almost don't really matter because these guys are good quickly too. Now this kid is 7th overall in 3 years, might be in the lineup and be a very good player. Like based on statistics, he most likely will not be, but I think people know where I'm going with this. Judge the Chicago Blackhawks in 4 to 5 years on these moves, because they're going to stockpile picks, get rid of salary, and off they go. And then they're hoping to God they land on Connor Bedard. I'll put it this way. If they land on Connor Bedard, everything they did was right.
Yeah. No, you honestly made a really good case there, Lepore. I thought that was a really good take. This team is clearly in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, and they did get the 7th overall pick, which, you would think would be a really good prospect. Now, a lot of the times from picks 5 to 10, not all of those guys become, star players in the NHL.
It's tough at that number. Yeah,
it's tough. And you know what? Even sometimes from 1 to 5, right? Like no one's a sure thing, honestly, when it comes to being a star player who's going to make, first or second team all-star and make all these all-star games. Like you're not guaranteed anything picking in the top 10, but it's clear what the Blackhawks are doing. And who knows, maybe they just didn't want to commit, because I feel like Alex DeBrincat would have been a lock to sign like an 8-year deal for $8 million per.
At least. Oh yeah.
Right. It would have been 8 by 8 times 8.5, just based on how great of a goal scorer he is. And maybe Chicago figured, why are we going to do this if we're going to be bad anyway? So you know what? Kind of convinced me a little bit, Lepore, that maybe the Blackhawks.
Oh, there you go. I'm very convincing.
Aren't as crazy as people think they are. I still think it was a bad trade, because I think if you're going to rebuild around somebody, you rebuild around a 24-year-old who's one of the top 10 goal scorers in the NHL, period. Like, just don't overthink that.
Well, I'll put it this way. So you can extend DeBrincat. Okay, you can extend DeBrincat. What would you say is like the bare minimum in terms of years for Chicago to be competitive? Like, in how many years would I have to say the Chicago Blackhawks will be in the playoffs? You to not be surprised.
It's a good question.
Like, I think if I said 3 years, like in 3 to 4, you'd be like, I don't even think that's possible. That's a stretch.
Yeah.
Like 4 to 5 years, anything can happen. Who knows where teams are going to be, but
yeah, I don't think it would have been a quick turnaround for that team at all. I think it probably would have been at least 3 years.
There you go. So that's almost half it. That's almost half his deal.
Yeah.
So half the deal is wasted. And because you have him, he's not putting you at the bottom because he's putting up 40 goals. So
yeah, no, it's a good way to look at it. It really is. I just think that Chicago still had enough pieces where they could have retooled this as opposed to completely tear down scorched earth.
Yeah.
I feel like there was an avenue here where they could have just retooled this roster. Because another player who you mentioned, I didn't even mention in that original rant I went on, was Kirby Dach, who they also got rid of. They picked this guy 3rd overall.
He's like 21.
Yeah, he's still a very young guy. So you have Kirby Dach, early 20s, DeBrincat, 24 years old. Like, these are guys you should be building around. You still have Kane and Taves. Kane, who's still a very productive player. Taves has fallen off. But you still have pieces, right? Like, it was still like a decent roster. And then even Dylan Strome and Dominic Kubalik, not extending qualifying offers to those guys. They're free agents now. It's just it's a bizarre situation. They're clearly all in on Connor Bedard. And if they don't get Connor Bedard, they're going to be pretty rattled. And they're going to be in a rough spot. As are the other teams who are tanking for Connor Bedard.
It's going to be ugly next year at the bottom of the standings for Connor Bedard.
Yes. Well, Lepore, before we end this podcast, because we are getting up against time here, we have to talk about the most annoying fan bases in the NHL.
Okay, we talk about them every week.
So if you follow Jay Fresh on Twitter, very good analytics follow.
Great follow.
And not even just analytics, like, he's a very smart hockey guy. And he's been building his name on Twitter over the last couple seasons. He does some fantastic work. Shout out to Jay Fresh. He released a poll where he allowed fans to vote on the most annoying fan bases in the NHL. And take a wild guess as to which fan base finished number 1 in that poll. Overwhelmingly, the most annoying fan base in the NHL, according to Jay Fresh's fan survey, are Leafs fans.
Shocking.
Coming in at number 2, the New York Rangers. Number 3, the Montreal Canadiens. Number 4, the Edmonton Oilers. And rounding out the top 5, the St. Louis Blues. Should we be surprised, Lepore, that the Leafs are number 1 on this list?
I wish I could have bet on that one because I would have mortgaged the house to bet that the Leafs would have won that poll. At the end of the day, if you look at that list, it's the popular teams, the teams who have the most fans, the teams who have fans outside of their home city. Fan is short for fanatic. Being a fan makes no sense. So we're irrational all the time about our teams. And by that, I mean, all fans are fucking annoying. All of them. The issue is with the Leafs, there's the most of us. So whenever these polls come out, it's like the Yankees, the Red Sox, Notre Dame football, the Dallas Cowboys, the Lakers, of course, because there's the most fans. One I was surprised at actually was St. Louis being so high.
Yeah, top 5?
Yeah,
that's pretty high for St. Louis. I wouldn't have guessed
the
that.
Blues, like, I don't know, and not to sound negative about St. Louis, but I'm just like, almost like they're not popular enough or not talked about enough to be that annoying. I mean, and that's why the Leafs fan. I think that too. I'm sure a lot of people who answered the poll, it's not even specific about fans. It's like they just hate us, like the over coverage, like everything being dissected. And then there is the fans, and you log on to the TSN or Sportsnet websites, and 80% of the stories are about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they talk about the big one on Twitter is it'll be Chicago playing Edmonton, and the intermission, they're talking about the Leafs. So Twitter just explodes. Like, they leave it to the panel, talk about the Leafs. And yeah, so I get it. I understand it. I embrace it. But to that, I say it's a trophy. It's a trophy, because the only thing that's the worst place to be is irrelevant. And I always tell people, when the Leafs are doing well, they're being talked about. And when they're not doing well, they're being talked about. They are being talked about. If they were not being talked about, that's a problem. That's a big, big problem. And people talk about us, so people hate us. There you go.
every fan base is just obsessed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I will point directly to the Edmonton Oilers fan base, because everything the Oilers do, they feel that they just need to compare it to the Leafs, whether it's you're comparing players, general managers, coaches, draft picks. I saw Bob Stauffer send out a tweet. He's an Edmonton Oilers broadcaster, and he was just in full troll mode, where he sent out a tweet of the last 4 drafts and who the Oilers picked in the first round compared to who the Leafs picked in the first round. And he also mentioned like the trades that the Leafs made, how they had to give away first round picks to get rid of Marleau. And then obviously like the Mrazek deal. And it just set off a firestorm on Twitter.
Of course.
And Leaf fans are coming in to defend Kyle Dubas. Oilers fans are coming in to dunk on Leaf fans. All these fan bases are just obsessed with the Leafs. I will say this. The Leafs might be the most annoying fan base just because there's Leaf fans everywhere. Yeah. But there is no fan base with a thicker skin, Lepore, than Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
How I've always put it, Bruno, is that at least we can make fun of ourselves.
100%. It's funny because I post on social media a lot. People see me on YouTube, on TikTok, and fans come at me all the time. I think they think they're hurting my feelings because they're like making fun of the Leafs. I do not care.
I know. We know they're fucking shit,
I know
guys.
how awful the Leafs have been over the last 20 plus years. And even if you want to go back to 1967, I know they can't win a playoff series to save their lives. Okay. But I know how to make fun of the Leafs.
Absolutely.
I post videos all the time. Me and Lepore talk on this podcast all the time, making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The podcast
do you think
is called
Gluttons
For Punishment. Think about that for a second.
Like our podcast is it's literally called Gluttons For Punishment. We make fun of this team more than anybody.
Yeah.
So it just boggles my mind when like people come in the comments of my videos or the GFP videos, and it's always Oilers fans, it's Habs fans, Bruins fans, and they're just like making fun of the Leafs. And it's like, I know how shit the Leafs have been. Yeah. You don't have to remind me. I can make fun of them. The other thing is, Lepore, is that those fans, if you come at their team, whether it's the Habs or the Oilers or whoever, they're the ones that can't handle it. At least from what I've seen on social media, they're the ones that have a conniption fit. If you say anything bad about the Oilers or the Montreal Canadiens, those are the fan bases that have to look at themselves in the mirror and maybe start to make fun of them, to make fun of themselves a little bit, just like Leaf fans do. That's my take on that.
At the end of the day, Bruno, we're all fans. We're all hockey fans. We wear our fandom like a badge of honor, and we're all fucking annoying is what it is. At the end, man, think of it just from like the way the human brain works. You're at a game. There's a fan next to you cheering for the other team. So hoping for the team you support to lose. And when that moment happens, when that fan's team scores and you're upset, they jump up and start cheering. You want to punch that guy in the face just because he's cheering for his team. And then there's, oh, he's annoying. No, he's just cheering for his team. But again, it's all of us. No fan base in any sport is better or worse than another, or more annoying or less annoying. We're all annoying. We're all crazy. We're all stupid for loving our teams as much as we do and spending money on our teams as much as we do. But it's fun, right?
You nailed it, Lepore. That's what makes sports. It's all of us annoying fans who love our teams, hate all the other teams, who overrate all our draft picks and all our players.
That's the best.
Every fan base does the exact same thing. We're all annoying. Fan, short for fanatic. We're crazy. We're obnoxious. We're emotional. That's what makes sports great. And that's what makes hockey great. So continue making fun of the Leafs in the comments section and ripping me on my videos and stuff. Do it. You're not affecting me. I'm going to keep making videos. GFP is going to keep putting out podcasts because we love this stuff. And this is what makes the sport of hockey as great as it is.
Is it ironic that this discussion is happening during episode 67?
Oh, I know, eh? Of course it's happening during,
because that's the number one troll, right? Oh, 67. Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
I love it, Lepore. I
never heard that
one
before. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
No, just hoping to God that Murray trade doesn't come seconds after we stop here. And free agency, man, coming soon, coming fast. It'll be exciting. Some good names out there. Can't wait to follow up in a week.
Yeah, we will definitely be back after free agency, going over all the deals. We'll see who the Leafs pick up. We'll see the other big names who sign big contracts throughout the NHL. We'll be in our bunkers here, ready to break it all down on the GFP podcast. But that's going to do it for episode 67. I hope you have gotten in your jokes before the end of this podcast. And if you haven't, please leave a comment down below with your 1967 Leafs joke.
Comment with your best joke down below. Let's see it, everyone.
We should have done a jersey giveaway
with the best
shirt
joke.
For this episode. Oh man. But
we'll buy you a jersey of your favorite team. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. But yeah, that's going to do it for episode 67. As always, thank you guys for watching and listening. If you're a new listener and you really enjoyed this episode, give us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you know the deal. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is releasing some new content. But we will see you guys after free agency. Hopefully the Leafs don't do anything stupid. Hopefully your favorite team doesn't do anything stupid. But until then, have a good one, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.